Perfect. So, aloha mai kako. I'm Dr. Miku Lenentine. I'm the director of the Serene Sustainability Lab. Welcome back. It's been a while since we've had a seminar, and this is sort of our rebrand with sustainability seminar series. And very, very happy to see all of you guys here in the room, and happy to see you guys online. And we are going to be recording this presentation so you can share it with people who weren't here, who I know actually really wanted to be here today. And I have the great pleasure of introducing our guest presenter today, Rita Keller. And Rita May is one of our graduate student assistants. She's an economics master's student, and she's part of the Transcending Barriers to Success in Economics Bridge program, and has been so amazing supporting our students, transferring from KCC, Noah, but also holding it down with our Team B research project, studying student perspectives on barriers to graduating in economics, and has probably many more things to share with you. And she'll be sharing today about her graduate journey. And so it's going to be kind of a mix of some personal anecdotes about her own experience, with also information about what it's like to kind of pursue an economics degree in graduate studies, since that's a bit of a mystery for many of us. So with that, I will start the slideshow for you and then hand it over to you.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, let's take it with you. All right.
This.
And is it okay if you guys are seeing this side? Yeah, we would want to duplicate it. I can't.
You want me to get the light?
Oh yeah, can you get the light? Yeah, there's a way. Zoom to do that. It's over here. Well, we can see what that does. Let's try it. I'm just not sure which one's going to project out. Basically, there's an option there's an option to duplicate it. But then the online audience, okay. Oh, there, I think that's it. I did it. We think. Okay, and now I can't. It's very awkward. Where's the hide button?
So is it the high flow?
I can't see it. Where is it? That. Oh. Yeah, it's okay. Hold on. We're just gonna go that one. Okay.
13 donuts.
Sometimes it turns off.
What's on it? 13 donuts. Oh, 13.
Not always.
We're not doing that.
Buzz.
13 dollars.
Calories, sugar drink.
Laser works. Guys, can you make the slides?
Sorry,
It's not working anymore.
What do you think?
The slides clicker advancing is not working anymore. Yay.
This is a learning experience, though. You're missing out on that.
If not, a kind soul can sit there and advance.
I think I might do it.
But I'm
Sorry. So, yeah, these questions, these are what economists usually think about. And for me, I find myself asking sometimes too. It was these kind of questions that really sparked my interest in economics. Growing up, I remember I used to ask my parents, like, how come our education system doesn't have much resources, or why is our healthcare system the way it is, and why do people leave like the islands? We usually see every day an influx of people leave the islands to come out here for better opportunities. Um, as we can see in this slide, economics is something that impacts us every day, from like the price of our morning coffees to all the careers that are available to us. I believe that studying economics not only empowers us to solve real world problems, but it also like gives us the tools to navigate every day. For students who have gotten a bachelor's in economics, they go on to have really well-paying jobs. As U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics have shown, the median salary for economists in 2023 was 115,000. Studying economics also prepares like each of us for whatever career we have in mind, whether that's in graduate school, law, business, or even the government. I just wanted to share kind of a little bit about myself before going to college. In 2015, I was sent to a Jesuit boarding high school in True called Xavier High School. And when I graduated from Xavier, I got a full ride scholarship to go study bioengineering in New York City. But a few months after that, COVID hit. I was so excited, thought I had everything figured out, but COVID happened and I wasn't allowed to change. So I started taking liberal arts classes at the College of Micronesia, hoping to kind of take up time and also transfer those credits. But they ended up locking our borders. So I wasn't allowed to leave at all. I ended up graduating from the College of Micronesia, got my AA degree in liberal arts, and then decided to transfer to UH.
I'm troubleshooting that.
It was like during these times, like all these changes in events that really allowed me to like sit down and wonder what I wanted to do and the impacts I wanted to make, not just for myself and my family, but for my community as a whole. And coming to UH Manila, I realized that economics was not just a subject that was about markets and money and graphs, but it was a discipline that really does shape public policy and transform communities, as Christine Lagarde has said in this quote. So when I came to UH, I really did choose economics because of how meaningful it could be or how impactful it could be, especially coming from the other side. While discovering like how economics is gonna be meaningful for my life, I also realized how practical this major was. As you can see in the starting salary, they do make a lot. Straight out of just a bachelor's degree, students who has a BA in economics, usually in quantitative economics, make about 78,000. And then those with just an economics degree makes about 72. So all this data was pulled from the American Economic Association. They used pay scale. So these were like interviews of undergraduate students and how much they were getting. And then for here, we see mid-career salary. So this kind of makes sense because you would imagine these econ students to already have experiences in sectors like policy, data analysis, and stuff like that. They've already gained much experience, so their pay is even more than what it is at the start. I think for me, the reason why I also chose economics was because coming from the FSM where financial stability can really open doors for not just for myself and my family, but my community, this meant a lot to me. It was in just giving me like economics. I wanted a major that had purpose and opportunity, and it gave me both of those. Here's kind of like a straight up slide talking about all the fields that economic majors have taken. They go on to become research assistants, teachers, bank managers, journalists, and so much more. And for me, when I got my bachelor's in economics at UH Manoa, it opened doors to opportunities that I didn't imagine for myself to get. So when I was at UH for undergrad, I got an internship with Department of Interior's Office of Insular Affairs. And then I was able to go back and, although it was an accounting firm, I was able to work within different sectors that I didn't imagine myself to be in. Was able to work with government agencies and write up like economic plans that comes out to the US. So that gave me so much more open doors than I have imagined. And if you're like me and you want to make a change, not just for yourself, but for your community and ancestral land, these are jobs that economics also allows you to take on. So if you look at this climate resilience planner, climate analysts, sustainability consultants, these are not just job titles. These are roles that gives you the opportunity to be able to make community-based changes and impact. And when I was taking economics, to be honest, like up until graduate school, I've realized that like I wasn't boxing myself into one career path. I was learning a skill set that allowed me to step out into any field that was meaningful to my community. And that's why I enjoy being an economics student. And here we see these were data pulled from UH's kind of like booklet, the economics department. These are all the places that BA graduates have secure jobs in. So they end up going into banks, international organizations like World Bank, and these are all just bachelor's students. We see them in airlines. We see them even in like teaching programs, like the Czech program in Japan. So just a little bit of like what a day in the life would look like. I'm a research assistant. My life is a little bit more different because I'm a student, but this is kind of like the work that me and Sadisha does. For a research assistant, usually they start off with checking emails on updates from, like for me, from Dr. Miku, Dr. Greeny, and everyone that I work with. Just updates on whatever we're working with and review whatever is related to what we're studying. We would work a lot on data gathering, so you would be reading literatures, finding, trying to understand and apply what other people study is on what you are studying. And then next, after lunch, you would then try to present what you have found to who you're working with. Just share the data you have. You can create visualizations like graphs just to make it more understandable for you and your team. And then the last, I think this is my favorite part. It's putting everything you have learned throughout the day into words that is meaningful to you, how you understand it. And also prepare or summarize actionable recommendations that could be used for policy changes, right? And I think that's something about economics that we don't realize is it's not just about learning, but about contributing to change. What you study, even alone, also makes a difference for people outside. And I want to end, I know this is a short, like very short presentation, but I want to end with these questions. You know, how would you use economics to solve a problem you care about? What roles does economics play in your daily life, and what changes do you want to make, right? You know, our lives doesn't have to always be linear. There's always going to be changes like mine has, but we have to keep learning, keep exploring, and always not be afraid to like make a change if needed. I think, yeah, like, just, I think time tells. Like, even if economics is not a major you have chosen, whatever field you have chosen for your life, I know it's gonna make changes when we think of others. That's what I wanted to share today. Thank you.
I'll navigate this too. All right, so she's left us lots of time to actually go into this a little bit more and ask some good questions, and can be, day in the life from more of a research perspective, or just that policy piece, or any other questions that you guys have. And what we'll do is we'll take questions from our in-person audience first, and then as you guys are talking, our online audience, who's there somewhere, you can populate the your questions in the chat, and then we'll come back and ask later. Oh my God.
Don't ask hard questions.
Oh, no.
I wish someone
Fine.
said no that they did.
All right,
Oh.
Oh, no.
I think that was earlier though. You
Oh, that was way earlier.
Yeah,
That
we
was way
Oh,
earlier.
very
mixed
good.
in. All right, so yeah, Brittany.
Oh, I do have a question. So during your research, do you have to like go back in time if there's like I would say like a repeat or something that you have to go back and be like, all right, hey, now this is the current trend. We've seen it in the past. This is how we're gonna fix it or better it, or?
Yeah, there's always changes in like everyday stuff.
Yeah.
Should we go through that, or we just update or add? Like this is
Okay.
what's,
Yeah, no, it just had me thinking because I know nothing about economics. Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
question. So what's the benefits of a master's versus bachelor's?
higher pay. Yes,
Like,
not just that, but I think it also prepares us with tools that we don't get to kind of learn in undergraduate. Some of the things I've learned in the graduate program, I've realized that I never touched on in undergrad. And then we get to kind of, it also opens doors for us to kind of know more people who are better in the field and understand the tools better. So,
and is it paid for?
I'm sorry.
Is your master's paid for usually for econ?
Yes, but since I'm a graduate research assistant, my tuition is good, thankfully, because I wouldn't be here without.
We have one question from the chat, which is, from Teresa. They said, great job, Rita. If you have time, can you talk about your summer internships with federal agencies and how you found those research assistant opportunities?
Okay, so when I worked with DOI, I think that experience that has really like made me realize what I wanted to focus on for my graduate program. So when I worked with Department of Interior, they made me look at the 2016 federal aid to the insular area. So that's American Samoa, FSM, CNMI, Guam, Marshall Islands, Palau, and our country. They made me look at those data and then put it into actual charts so I could present it. And now, just looking at that data, I've realized that most of our islands, we rely so heavily on like foreign aid, right? So I wanted to, for my graduate, it has kind of impacted what I wanted to pursue. So for my capstone, I'm thinking of pursuing just understanding the Comeback to Free Association and the trust fund that is there. And will we be even ready if anything happens to our comeback between us and the US? So it was a good experience.
Can you explain just really briefly the Compact with Free Association for some case you're not as
Yeah,
familiar?
so anyone can correct me with another Google, but the Compact to Free Association is an agreement between the United States and 3 different countries. So that's the FSM, Marshall Islands, and Palau. What the compact does is, in exchange for them having access to our land and water, we get free entry into the US to study, to work, to live. So that's why we're here without a visa. And that's the only reason why I'm able to be here and study. Something that most of our students back in the islands, you can tell that we have very bright students, but they can't come out here because of financial reasons. So I'm very privileged to be even here. And I'm thankful for all of that.
You guys can ask any questions on that as well.
what are some tips that you want to give for like fellow islanders who want to be master students?
Work hard. I mean, for me, it's so empowering to hear, to know that I'm the only like Bangladesh studying economics at UH Manoa, but it also comes with a lot of pressure, not just from like our family, but like from the whole community. Everyone knows everything, so they know that I'm out here for school. An advice I would give is step out. You know, you cannot know if you can unless you try.
Glad we're recording this.
I have a curiosity, so what do people tend to do back where you're from if they don't go to school?
It's so what I understand from our Bangladesh culture, most women are looked at as, oh, you're gonna be a caregiver. They don't see us like going out to pursue our education, right? They expect us to be married, have a family, and take care of our family at home while the husband's work. So you don't see a lot. I'm gonna be honest, out of the whole Binglat Island, that's just a small atoll outside of Bombay. Less than 10 of us are in college. So that's a big thing. Yeah. Education is not something that's very important. I think because older generations did not come out to school. So you usually find parents like saying, oh no, it's okay. You don't have to go out to school. You can find a life. Like here, this job is fine. So for us who decide to come out and who wants to make a change, it puts a lot of pressure on us. Because we know that.
Did I finish?
Yeah. So we know that we're the only ones holding that torch, you know? And we're the only ones who can show the younger ones that you have a life ahead of you.
So given that context, how did you kind of make that decision? How was that part of like for your journey?
I would say I'm very privileged because I have a dad who pursued his education very much. He had his parents pass away right way before he went to high school. But he still finished high school, went on to get his bachelor's, and then came here to get his CPA. So for him, it was always someone that pushed me and my siblings to go out to school. But we had other voices outside of us, like uncles and aunties who say, why are you going? Like, you can be here and just work here. It's because people were not given the opportunity to come out. You see, if any type of person in the government, anywhere, you can work anywhere. So people usually just tell you, you can find a job anytime. Yeah. But I'm very privileged to have parents who prioritize education. They push us, even though financial wise, it's very hard. Sometimes we don't know how we're gonna finish a semester, but things work out when we try.
What is a cultural proverb that you remember that helps you with your degree?
Yeah. Honestly, proverb, I don't know, but a lot
Or
of
a saying?
a lot of people would say, you know, if we remember our past, we will always like get to where we want to be. We shouldn't ever forget our cultural values. And that's something that I try to take on with me everywhere. Something about people from my community is they have so much respect for people around. So whatever they do, even in private, impacts what's around. And that's what I try to take everywhere.
No, Chris has questions. We usually do, actually.
I have some questions, but, so one of the things I wanted to ask is about, like coming over from other places, especially like territories, US territories. So you have free cost of living and to study to come over. to the United States, right? So you don't need a visa.
Yes.
What is like the legal status of like citizenship for people that come over from those territories? Do they have American citizenship or is it a different?
What I know is they usually just say resident aliens. So we can be here to live, to work. We have access to anything that US citizens have, but we hold our own passport.
Mm.
We have our own passport, our own social security back home. Yeah.
So, right now.
And there's a difference, I'm still learning all this too. Anyone who's curious, there's a map on the back wall that breaks that all down for you, so you can see the different countries, but yeah, you need to go take a look at it, so you can see where.
And I had-
Or is it, it's like there's a difference between territories, and you'll see on that, and the COFA nations, which is the Compact of Free Association. They have totally different privileges and access and support as well. And I don't know the geopolitical history of that, we gotta bring Ryan for that, but.
My other question about economics is because I know that it's a very heavily contentious and debated field. There are a lot of people debate economics. And being a researcher where you're trying to find like objective truth, do you ever find in researching economics that there's a lot of contention and there's a lot of like disagreements? Or do you usually find a lot of economics researchers find the same conclusions? I'm just wondering if there's a lot of different.
I'm pretty sure in all fields we see that. There's like a lot of what you're saying. I do see it in economics.
I have a hard question.
Enough of the easy ones.
Let's quit playing around. Yeah.
Well, there's so much to learn about economics, right? So, and it's been really fun to learn along with you guys as the TVSC program is going. But maybe you know a little bit about it, like in terms of contention in the field of economics, it does seem like there's some contention around concept in general around circular economics. And I've heard a little bit of debate on that. I don't know if you've heard much on that. Okay, I can speak to that, yeah. Oh, it's just something along. I think it's something along the lines of more similar like to physics, right? Like the concept of you can never have a closed loop system in general based on physics. Because of entropy, right? And the release of thing, I'm not saying it right, but how that applies to economics, I think that's the like part of the underlying contention, but I don't know if Teresa's still on there, but okay, that's a bookmarked question because that does seem to be the important model, right? So like, I really like saying this, like back in my day, I've been doing this for so long, right? You know, it was about cradle to grave. So you would look at the lifetime of a product. This is just a product, right? Not the entire system, but like lifetime of product or service to the end of its lifetime. You manage for that. But then it became cradle to cradle. So the lifetime of birth all the way to the end, all the way to the creation of the next thing, right? And then that's like at a product level. So circular economy, like, is then, at least to me, like the next thing after that. So it's not just these little individual products and services, it's an entire ecosystem, an economy that's moving that way. So I don't know, but these things are still emergent and they are contentious. That's why we need more people in the field.
I got an easy question. So like culture shock, did you experience that like in an academic setting and in a private, like just like walking around socializing? And what's like the differences? I guess like it's,
Everything is different. I mean, we're closer to the ocean still, and the weather is similar, but everything is very different for us. I think there are Mechanicians you'd come across who don't speak English well. It's not our first language. I speak Bangladesh, I know Bolivian, and I understand other languages. I started speaking English when I was 7 years old. So coming out, it's things like that. Even in studies, we have to kind of put it in our own words just to understand things better. And the stores, the roads, everything is different. So it really was. I think the privilege of me going to a boarding high school was that I was able to adapt. I know how to kind of be far from family, right? but everything else was completely different.
And were like the professors like easier to approach at UH or not as easy or?
I'm so thankful for most of the professors there because I'm able to come to them and Dr. Miku when I need help. But it really takes a lot for us to come and ask for help. Yeah. We're usually told back in the islands to let our elders speak. That's the norm, where we always sit back and out of respect, not because we're scared, but because they should get the say because they're older. So when we come out into these spaces, it's so hard to stand up for ourselves and say, I need this or I need help understanding this. We're so used to having our moms or our dads speak on our behalf.
I have a similar question with that, related to your major. Is there like a lot of presentation or just majority like work by yourself?
No, for the classes I took undergrad at UH Manoa, I did a lot of presentations. I think it depends on the professor you choose and the class you take, right? It's the way they construct their classes, but most of the classes I took, I did have to do presentations and do data stuff, but it was fun. It's fun to learn when you know you're learning something that other people don't know.
It's on your slide.
Yeah.
How would you use economics to solve a problem that you care about? Or do you have any examples of people you see in economics that have solved problems?
I think just kind of bringing back what I've said, like questions like why do we see so much migration from our islands, right? It's because of these things. We don't have much job opportunities. How can we make the healthcare system better? So we have people coming out here to look for help. It's those kind of questions that really made me interested in economics, knowing that I can use that to contribute to how policy is being made so that it can make change for people.
How much math do you use?
Yes, that's a
What
great
level,
question.
yeah.
That's a great question.
Good question, we'll tackle.
It's a lot of math, but I think, I mean, all of us can learn as long as we put our minds to it.
What math level do you have to get to though for like?
Yeah, so I took calculus in undergraduate, but I wish I had taken up to like Calc 3 or 4. Because in graduate school, we do a lot more math. We do linear algebra, we do every kind of math you can think of. So last semester, I took mathematics for economics, which is statistics and calculus and everything together. And then I'm now taking econometrics, which is a lot more math solving too.
And does it just help you like have a better visual of?
Can you explain like simulations and like R, like programming? So like, because that's where you use the math is to use these computer models to do analyses, right? It's like, right? Pretty much,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
I haven't really like put the math that I'm learning into like
Oh.
visuals. It should be next year, like
Okay.
the next coming year. But yes, what we learn in like econometrics are like linear models that we then could use to explain what we see around the world. So that's why it's so useful. And it's fun when you get to apply it, you know, when you know that you're gonna apply it for a bit bigger thing, it becomes exciting.
And there's a lot of, you guys remember Sadisha's presentation? There's a lot of overlap between geospatial analysis, I think, or maybe the future and econometric data. Because like, for example, Sadisha was looking at impact of housing costs based on the Red Hill crisis, right? So she's looking at kind of different concentric geographical circles based on impact, but then you need all these different formulas to kind of do a compare and contrast to get like the answer, right? And the answer is like, how much does the housing go up? But then you have to have all these different factors, and all those factors have to be embedded in formulas, and have different scenarios, and then compare it. And that's how you do your policy recommendations. It's simulation modeling, where it's modeling different outcomes of things you've observed in the world. see what kind of impacts there are. So you can make recommendations for the future or recommendations for amounts of aid to be distributed or not, that kind of thing. I actually, I changed majors because of simulation modeling, so I have some understanding, but that's where the math is applied.
Do you use the Ta'ao method to? In economics?
Or a broader question, how are Indigenous research frameworks?
Yeah,
Connected to any of the coursework you've taken or anything that you're doing now?
Yeah, so I'm still in the theory stuff, right? But I'm so thankful for TBSC and the work that I'm doing, because that's where I'm really diving into Indigenous economics. It's so nice to see that economics also include like people that we wouldn't think of, right? Like people who are usually neglected in Western studies, that their values or like what they care about also matters in economics, and what they've been doing in the past makes changes today. So that's something that I'm working on in Indigenous economics with Dr. Miko and everyone, that really is so new to me also, because I usually think of economics as like numbers and stuff, that it goes down to little things like that. So
Yep, so she's gonna go out in the world and become a professional and carry this different worldview around how economics can function because of these things. So she's like, you're like the next, basically first cohort going out and doing that.
Where are you gonna go after you graduate?
hopefully pursue the next, but that's the plan. I always tell myself like it's a privilege to learn, especially coming from FSM. So I want to take as much time I can to learn. Probably be here first to gain some experience and continue.
Do you have your capstone project? Where are you with that? I don't even have.
I have talked to like a professor at UH, but haven't started writing. It's just an idea coming together.
You're ready to tell us your
I think I kind of touched on it, but I wanted to look at the trust fund. So with the Compact of Free Association, every year there's contributions made by the FSM and the United States into this trust fund that they haven't touched on. So this trust fund is just so that when the US steps away, we have enough money to sustain, to be okay to run everything, you know? So the agreement, the Compact of Free Association was renewed last year, but it'll expire in 2043. So the question I wanted to pursue was, in 2043, will this money, so projection, I want to do all of that, of how much with this kind of interest rate, how much will then be in the trust fund, and will we be able to sustain our? That's
Yeah. Do you, another possible,
One question.
oh,
Yeah, it kind of relates to it here.
oh, it's David.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was my question.
Do you use programming languages like R or SQL in economics?
I started using R in undergraduate. Right now, since I'm still in like the theory side of economics for a graduate program, we haven't like looked into R, but I do have some like background in it from the work I did in undergrad. But I'm sure that's what I'm gonna use to do my study.
It's kind of a standard.
Yes,
Sure.
yeah.
My question was actually about, another maybe possibly hard question, I mean, I'm here with you too, so, what, 2043, right? So, we've been working with Levi and looking at Marshall Islands and looking at climate impacts and timeline scenario planning. There is like 2035, 40 is pretty, grim timeline in terms of habitability for the islands. I wonder what it's like back home.
Yeah, that's also things we have to consider, right? We don't know how the climate will look like during those years. So will that trust fund or whatever is in that trust fund, will it be able to even help with that? Those are the kind of questions that I want to explore. Because I do understand what Marshall Islands is going through, and we're so close to it. I have classmates who are from the Marshall Islands when I was in high school. And that's one thing that you can see that really most people are concerned about. Like, we're talking about all these financial stuff, but what about just the environment? Yeah. So it is a big issue that should be considered too when studying these kind of things.
Kind of pace myself and putting you on the spot. Any other questions from folks that haven't had a chance to ask a question?
Much is more just in taking everything.
I'm always curious in other countries, about the role of woman. And, kind of curious what's like back home. And then especially like, with now you being educated in this way and kind of, you know, like how, I guess, yeah, curious like how you're received at home and then how it is like for you here.
That's true. For our island, it's everything is men. Like I come from a matrilineal society, so yes, so men are the heads of everything. You know, us women, we're just the helpers on the side. So you don't usually see women sitting at the table when there's a big decision. It's usually just men. So even I think because I was raised in that kind of environment, I come out here and I know that even though I go back with all this knowledge, I have to know my place. Yeah. Like out of respect for the men and the elderly, my words, I don't know how to explain, but I think Dr. Miko, since working with like Marshallese closely, you can see that it's always the men that represents.
Well, okay, now, and I'm like learning, so I'm gonna go, Nimue and I are gonna go to WEPTO this year, which is the women's group. So my experience in Marshall Islands was actually through men. And I actually got slightly different picture painted for me about their role there. And I don't know if it's different or not, but I haven't gotten to hear that picture painted from the eyes of the woman themselves. So yeah, I was kind of curious because, and the Marshall Islands is, if anyone on the call knows this, but yeah, that the women are the major landholders. And so there is this like strong kind of, or the women have like this really strong,
Yeah, so I know
role,
that.
but then they're nowhere. But then they're
Yes.
not at the table, like,
Yes.
literally. So there's a juxtaposition that I experienced. And when I asked about it, it's not really being expressed.
Yeah, I think you would see that also in the Chuukese community. Women are like the landholders,
Right.
but they do not sit at the
They
table.
don't sit at the table. I don't understand that.
And it's something that even us kids don't understand sometimes, right? I think what usually happens is the woman would talk to the partners in the house and then the man brings it out to the bigger table.
Right.
That's usually what happens.
Like when we were working with CalGov, right? So we've had a delegation visit now 3 years, and there's never been a woman, except Jean, but she's here, so kind of like, yeah, and that was my question like the whole time. Curious, yeah. Do you see any, I guess, do you see any need for change around that? Or how do we navigate that? I was talking with KH philosophy professor about, what is that? Mike is on, agnosticism, relativism, right? Moral relativism, that values are associated with different cultures. Some ways you kind of can't compare one to another, but then at the same time, like where is there the role, room for shifting those things? And like role of woman, and another one is actually the role of youth. So we've been trying to lift, like, especially when the delegation comes, they're not used to having, I didn't realize this. I thought like, yes, try to give the mic as much as we can. But Greg was like, oh yeah, they never have the youth presenting to them. It's very different when they come here. So like, I don't know, like, just your thoughts like on that, like, is there room for that? And yeah, how do we, psychology, how we reconcile that within ourselves?
That's a hard question.
No.
Yeah, especially being raised in like that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Start to think of it differently, right?
Yeah.
But I think there is, I know the youth has so much to share that the older people don't know.
Yes, yeah.
So that's a hard question.
Oh, well, so it'll be, to be continued, and then Rita will keep us posted as you go back. See, right, and I mean, as you have influence. Connection back there. So do you see, I think I asked you that a while ago, do you see yourself working there, or working here, or?
I would love to work there, but after gain experience here. I want to like, put myself out there here first,
Yeah.
just to know how I can then go back and apply
Yeah.
these things. So that's the plan.
Right. Then it's gonna be like women's economist boot camp. And then we'll pitch tents also. Well, if there are no more questions, I think that's probably a wrap for today, so. And then for those online, thank you guys so much. Let's see, David, I'll follow up with you, and Landon also, but yeah, thanks everybody. Take care, and we'll see you again next week. We have Dr. Piyush Kumar from Microsoft presenting on something along the lines of AI, sustainability, and community-owned microgrids.
Next Wednesday?
Yeah, so he'll be zooming in from Seattle, but he's amazing, so yeah. Okay, thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye.